will begin in 1 minute. The Wells Report will begin in 45 seconds. The Wells Report will begin in 30 seconds. The Wells Report begins in 15 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. Today is April 11th. It's Thursday. For your TGIF fans, sure happy it's Thursday. Year of our Lord 2024. I'm John David Wells. Good morning. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. So we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. There is a huge story here in the United States that involves the FISA Act. The FISA Act, specifically Section 702, is a bone of contention in the United States Congress, and it should be. It is a law that was a part of the Patriot Act and all of the things that went into place after the 9/11 terror attacks of 2001. It has been abused by the people who advocated for it. It has been used politically time and time again. Indeed, federal law enforcement agencies have lied to the FISA court that was set up because of this act. They've lied to the FISA court in order to get warrants to spy on their political opposition. It is up for renewal on April 19th. That bill is now stalled in Congress thanks to Republican lawmakers who believe that that abuse requires its dismissal, especially Section 702. The story in the mainstream media is not the civil liberties portion of Section 702 that has been abused. That is not the story. The story is the chaos, the supposed chaos in the Republican conference in the U.S. Congress. And that is misleading. It is a mischaracterization of what's going on. It also, which is the most important thing, at least as far as I'm concerned, this is my opinion, it completely ignores the problem in the first place with Section 702 of the FISA Act and the FISA Act in general. And we're going to spend some time reporting on that story today and discussing it. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. If you have something to say about this, please join us today, especially today, because this civil liberties issue is something that turns the United States of America from the greatest republic in the history of the human endeavor into another third world country where law enforcement, intelligence services, and other executive branch agencies are used in third world country styles. And that's what's happening today. And that's what's important today. Let's get to this biased reporting from not just USA Today, but also Fox News. Although I'm going to play you a video of a guest on Fox News yesterday that framed the issue perfectly on both sides. However, the story is not that the Republican Party is having an argument. The story is that Section 702, the FISA Act in general, needs to be scrapped and something needs to take its place. I'm not talking about revising a bad law that is rife for abuse. I'm talking about a bad law that has to disappear. More about that coming up in just a couple of seconds. Let's get to the news. This from the USA Today. Days after returning from a 2-week recess, right-wing fury, spurred on by former President Donald Trump, brought the House to a standstill in a significant blow to House Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republican from Louisiana, as he grapples with a threat to his leadership post. 19 House Republicans shot down a procedural step known as a rule vote in the House on a controversial spying law that has renewed GOP infighting. The move effectively froze the House, left the legislation in a state of limbo. In days leading up to the vote, House Republicans were confident they could take the lead on the renewal of the Foreign Surveillance Authority Act, or FISA, and pass it this week. But it quickly became apparent that several conservative hardliners, furious at Johnson and accusing leaders of leaving their voices out, were angling to shut down the bill. Former President Trump yesterday morning also told Republicans to kill FISA in an 11th hour post on Truth Social, emboldening conservative opposition to Johnson's reapproval plan. Look, here's the situation here. This is all biased. This is absolute bias. This is a bad law. It is a bad law that was used to distort the 2020 election. It is the shining example of why this nation cannot give too much power to a federal government, our federal government. We can't do it. And this is the reason why. But once again, the left-wing media is framing this as some kind of political failure by the Republican Party, when in fact, it is exactly how this entire system is supposed to work. Let's continue. All this was happening as Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene dangled a motion to vacate over Johnson's head. It's an effort, if passed, that would boot him from the speakership. Greene's move, alongside with the open rebellion in the House vote, underscores the growing frustration at Johnson from conservatives who say the speaker, the speaker isn't fighting hard enough for conservative values. One of the conservatives who derailed FISA, Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee, told USA Today that frustration within hard right ranks has reached a point where it's not clear that Speaker Johnson could survive an effort to oust him, calling the House fickle. Johnson sought to sell the plan to reauthorize the surveillance legislation in a meeting that happened yesterday morning and touted other reforms of FISA, stressing its importance. As advocates say, it's essential to national security. Let's take a look at this report yesterday on Fox News. It's a great report that essentially, for all intents and purposes, perfectly frames the entire issue on both sides. This is from Fox News yesterday. Take a look.
You got people on the right, you got people on the far left who are saying, no, we need to kill this thing.
And it's completely understandable why Donald Trump wants to kill it. It was abused terribly against him. It was the basis for the Mueller investigation, which hamstrung his administration for the first couple of years. You would know better than anyone, having a front row seat to all of that.
Well, you had a bit of a front row seat, too.
That's true. I was at the Department of Justice, so we both had front row seats in our respective worlds. But look, just because something's abused doesn't make the thing itself bad. That goes for anything in life. And FISA is a critical national security tool that's used to thwart attacks from ISIS, to fight China, to fight Russia. The problem is when the FBI needs to present those stories to the American people in order to sell FISA and say, look, this tool actually makes you safe in your everyday life. They can't, because it's classified. And this was a messaging issue that we ran into when I was at DOJ, because they needed my help to sell it again to the American people. And I said, well, I just need some examples. And they said, well, we can't talk about them. And I said, well, that's part of the problem.
Yeah. So you mentioned Donald Trump. Here's what he posted on Truth Social. He said, kill FISA. It was illegally used against me and many others. They spied on my campaign. DJT. That stands starkly at odds with what your former boss and the Secretary of State said. They said Congress could not let FISA Section 702 expire. Our country's safety is at stake. Congress must reauthorize a reformed version of FISA. I'll give you the reforms that are proposed in just a second, but speak to that idea that you've got the former president and then two of his top deputies at odds on this.
Right. And it's because Trump was a victim in all of this, and the abuse was atrocious. It was bad. But that's why they've instituted these reforms, these safeguards, some of which, and if I don't know if you're going to.
Yeah, I've got it. So let's look at these proposed FISA reforms. It would prohibit political opposition research or media reports as a basis for securing a warrant to spy on U.S. citizens. That was used to get the warrant for Carter Page.
That's a key one.
Require notification of congressional leaders if the target is a politician. Limit FBI personnel who can greenlight 702 database inquiries on U.S. citizens. It would reduce the number from about the current number of 10,000 to 550. So that really trims it down. And then provide civil and criminal penalties for misuse.
Yep, enhanced criminal penalties, the reduction of who can sign off, as you just said, it's reduced by 90%. Very small pool of people who can actually sign off. And another interesting reform is that compliance by that small group of people will be directly tied to their compensation. So their pay will be affected, and they could be charged with a crime if there's an abuse, enhanced penalties. And so, look, again, very important tool for national security purposes. The problem is Americans are just familiar with FISA because of the abuse, but it 100% is used to fight some of our biggest enemies.
Yeah, that may be the case. And if that's the case, that this is such an important law, that it's essential that it be renewed, then the people who were administrating that law, enforcing that law, should have been more careful with it. They should have realized that when they start using the FISA law as a political bludgeon against the political opposition of this nation, that they run the risk of having that privilege, that ignoble idea of being able to bash your political opponents with law as opposed to with reasoned debate, that they were going to lose the whole shooting match. And they should lose the whole shooting match on this one. They should lose the whole thing. And they're saying, my God, we have to have this. Yeah, well, you know what? The Constitution of the United States limits the United States government from doing exactly what this law allows. And you're saying, my God, well, we won't be safe. Well, yeah. Yeah, we'll be less safe. But we will also have more liberty and freedom. Benjamin Franklin. Those who would trade security for transitory security those who would trade liberty and freedom for transitory security deserve neither. The people of this United States government made a huge error in believing that federal law could be used as a political tool. And this federal law was at the forefront of it. And what they ended up doing was blowing it up, along with the credibility that they have and goodwill of the American people. They blew it up. And this is a shining example of exactly what I'm talking about when you're discussing this. This is Christopher Wray, the current director of the FBI, discussing his predecessor and how he abused this law. Also from Fox News. Stand by.
In front of this very committee in an open session, your predecessor, Jim Comey, testified that he did not follow the proper protocol regarding the notification of Congress of the opening of the Crossfire Hurricane. That will be the counterintelligence investigation into President Trump in 2016. To address this illegal abuse of power by the FBI, this committee included direction to the FBI in the IAA requiring notification to congressional leadership of any counter-intel investigation into a federal candidate for office. Is there any counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
I would just say I'll refer you to the special counsel has.
It's not a question about the special counsel.
Right.
That's a requirement in the IAA of the FBI. Is there a counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
There's no investigation that I could confirm here. No.
Is there a counterintelligence investigation?
Again, I'm not confirming any investigation into either candidate.
Are you aware that you're required by the IAA to notify Congress of any counterintelligence investigation?
And we will comply with the law.
Have you already complied with the law? Has there been a notification?
I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
You believe you have been, or has there been a notification to Congress of any counterintelligence investigation of a federal candidate?
I believe we have complied with the law.
Has there been a counter intel assessment conducted on either President Biden or President Trump?
Again, there's no assessment that I would confirm here in any way. I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. The fight in Congress is over the renewal of the FISA law, a FISA law that has been abused for political purposes by the very people enforcing it. It expires make that April 12th, make that 19th, April 19th. It should expire because the people using this law for political purposes should no longer have the law to use for political purposes. We are being put in a position where the people of the United States have to choose between their national security and a law that violates their constitutional rights. It is the most degenerate abuse of the people of the United States by the entire political process that I have ever seen. It is not just perplexing, it's maddening. This government is doing its absolute dead level best to circumvent the Constitution of the United States. Indeed, they already have. They admit it. Comey testified, yeah, I misused the law. Great. Okay, you've misused the law, and we're going to take it away from you. No, you can't. No. We have to have it. For what? What do you have to have the law for? Do you have to have the law to protect the United States from terror attack? Or do you have to have the law to be able to circumvent, sunder, inhibit, oppress, in other words, violate the constitutional rights of your political opposition? And we are being asked, the people of the United States, to choose between a government violating our constitutional rights or doing what they're supposed to do, which is protect the homeland. This law is a bad law. This law has been abused. And why wasn't a normally sleepy, as Fox News talks about it, a sleepy procedural vote, why wasn't that just taken care of? I'll tell you why. Because the conservatives in the Republican caucus do want amendments added to this bill. There are 57 amendments to make the bill better. Those are good things. But there are two missing. There are two missing that would circumvent, or at least try to circumvent, some of the abuses this law has already been used to enact. And those are these. One, in order for somebody to look through FISA databases, FISA is designed to look at foreign nationals and to essentially develop intel from outside the continental United States. When you're dealing with people who have conversations with people outside the continental United States, they're involved in those conversations. In fact, the original abuse of the FISA law during the Trump campaign was, hey, look, Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, well, they're talking to foreign nationals. Well, they were also highly placed sources in the Trump campaign. All the information that they discussed regarding the Trump campaign went immediately to the Obama administration, and thus the Democrat Party. In other words, they were spying on their political opposition using the FISA law. And you're saying, so what? Well, remember the Watergate break-in when a Republican president spied on the Democrat National Committee headquarters? Remember that? That cost Richard Nixon his presidency. What, was that just well, that's no harm, no foul? Wrong. There's more to this story coming up in just a couple of seconds. Yeah, I'm upset about it. I truly am, because the mainstream media is trying to essentially deflect your adequate interest and important interest in the fact that this law violates the Constitution in an effort to frame it as, well, it's a food fight between the Republicans. Ridiculous. Back in a minute.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We bring you news, analysis, commentary, and debate. And we also bring up egregious abuses of American law by the practitioners of it, the federal law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies of the United States that have somehow looked inward to use all of American law that they can grab a hold of and use politically. Okay, so that's an opinion. We differentiate between opinion and news. The news on this is that somehow this is a food fight between Republicans. That's not the case. The problem with this law, and I'm talking about the the reaffirmation, the continuance of the FISA law, is that there's political intrigue involved in it. And I'm going to frame this for you carefully. I started before the end of the last break, or before the end of the last segment. Let me finish that discussion. There are two things missing from all of the reforms of the FISA law, some 57 of them. Those are good, but there are two missing. The two that are missing are the exclusion of an amendment to the law that makes it essential. As a matter of fact, it makes it law that anyone using the data collected by the FISA law, that is to be able to use that data against Americans for whatever reason, mostly political, you have to get a warrant from a judge. So you have to get a warrant mandating a search of the database when that database and when that search includes American citizens. That's missing. Why? Why is it missing? There's also something else. There is an amendment that the conservative Republicans want that will forbid the purchase of U.S. citizens' data from third-party providers like Facebook, YouTube, all of those. And the simple case of the matter is that those two things are missing for political effect. The political effect is this. If indeed these two things are not allowed to or not put into the reform of the FISA law, if they're not put in, it covers the backsides of politicians and law enforcement officers and intelligence officers who abused it. And indeed, by excluding these things from the final reform law, it allows them to continue it. Now, here's another problem. Old John David, the FBI lied to the FISA court to continue their surveillance of the Trump campaign and the transition and the early parts of the Trump administration. True. So if you add a thing to this law that says it's illegal for somebody to proceed to grab data from the FISA take, the data take, if it's illegal, then what that means is that we abuse the law and it's there for everybody to figure out. Correct. What it does is it shines a shining light on the abuse of this law and the abuse of the warrant process. The warrant process was lied about when the FBI tried to continue the surveillance of the Trump campaign. The other thing about it is that social media has become the greatest source of domestic intelligence on Americans that the government has ever had. It's voluntary. You put all that data out there. And so the government uses it against you if your politics are wrong, according to them. We see it with parents that are interrogated by the FBI because they spoke up at a school board meeting. And other things. People tracing gun purchases through social media, et cetera, et cetera. The objective of the United States is to have citizens that are free to express themselves. To abuse that law for political reasons is un-American. It's unconstitutional. It's just plain real wrong. And these conservative Republicans are demanding that warrants must be issued before Americans can become the focus of the data from the FISA law. And the abuse of social media by the United States government for political reasons. That's the story. Does the FISA law need to be reformed? Absolutely. Should the FISA law be done away with on April 19th? Bye-bye, see you later, because it's been abused? Yes. Will it make us less safe? Yeah, but it will reinforce American freedoms and liberties guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and by the Bill of Rights. We are put in this horrifying position by politicians and by corrupt law enforcement, Justice Department, and intelligence officials. We have to choose between being less safe or being more free. That is a malfunction of the political process of the United States of America. All eagerly and quickly sustained, that abuse, I mean, by the mainstream media. We have USA Today, center left, and Fox News, center right, doing the exact same thing. They are reporting the Republican food fight instead of reporting the actual reality. Well, I'm not hindered by that stuff because I don't care whose butt I kick, whether it's Republican or Democrat or anybody else. If those people put themselves between the people of the United States and the Constitution and Bill of Rights that gives them liberty and freedom, guess where I'm coming down? I'm going to do the butt kicking, and I'm doing it right now. I'm taking out the political process. I'm taking out the corrupt law enforcement from the federal side, including the DOJ and FBI, and I'm taking out the intelligence agencies for spying on Americans. American intelligence is about what happens outside the country, not inside the country. Federal law enforcement is about enforcing federal laws, not leveraging for federal law for political purposes. And they have blown it. All of them. And the mainstream media. The mainstream media forgetting to report the real story. The real story is that a warrant requirement is missing from this law. Not that that means anything, because the FBI just flat lied to the FISA court to keep their warrants going. But at least that puts jail in the picture for those people who would do it. And then to abuse social media to purchase information that is then used as a political tool to quell the freedom and liberty of the people of the United States. Those two things are missing. That's why this bill isn't going anywhere. Until those things are fixed, I suggest this bill shouldn't go anywhere. And if indeed this thing expires on April 19th, fine. Fine. That's what I think. But you see, it's not that simple. It's not that simple at all. A few days ago, in Dearborn, Michigan, there were pro-Palestinian terrorists here in the United States shouting death to the United States, death to Israel. That kind of terrorist rhetoric has usually been reserved for outside the United States, but now it's here. And it happened in Dearborn, Michigan. And guess who is the congressperson from Dearborn, Michigan? Why, it's Rashida Tlaib. She has absolutely made it abundantly clear that her reason to be in Congress is to be a voice not for her congressional district, but for Palestinians. She's made that clear. She said that in the news. That's not a supposition on my part. That is the news. That's what she said. And then when she was called on the Death to America chants in her own district, here's what she had to say.
Congresswoman Tlaib.
Fox News. I don't talk to Fox News.
At a rally in your district, people were chanting death to America. Do you condemn?
I do not talk to Fox News.
But do you condemn chants of death to America?
I don't talk to people that use racist tropes.
Why can't you just say whether or not you condemn people chanting death to America? Why are you afraid to talk to Fox?
Fox News is not listen, using racist tropes towards my community is what Fox News is about, and I don't talk to Fox News.
Is death to America racist?
Fox News.
Is chanting death to America racist?
I'm talking about your guys' racist tropes. You know, you guys know exactly what you do. I know you're Islamophobic, but you guys got to go deal with it on your own self. You're not going to use me.
Islamophobic. Racist tropes. So in other words, in Dearborn, Michigan, according to the congresswoman who actually represents them, shouting death to America and death to Israel is a racial right. And to criticize it makes it Islamophobic. Really? Now, I bring that up not because of the political implications. I bring that up because there are actually people in broad daylight chanting death to America on American soil. That's why I'm bringing that up. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have a problem. That there is a fifth column in the United States that wants to import the Palestinian, Jewish, Palestinian, Israeli war into this country. That's what it means. That's what it means. But wait, there's more. Today, FBI Director Christopher Wray is going to testify to the U.S. House, the U.S. Public Safety and National Security Committee, trying to get an increase in the budget for the FBI. He's going to testify that we have a real terror problem in the United States, that there is terror chatter that warns of another 9/11 style attack, and that he's trying to warn Congress about it. Here's what Fox News reports. FBI Director Christopher Wray today will warn of an elevated threat to U.S. public safety and national security while advocating for an increased budget. Quote, looking back over my career in law enforcement, I'd be hard-pressed to think of a time when so many threats to our public safety and national security were so elevated all at once. That's what he's going to say to the House Appropriations Subcommittee this afternoon. But that is the case as I sit here today. This is not a point where we can let up. Wray will argue at the hearing the federal agency needs fiscal support to tackle these threats to keep Americans safe. This is by no means a time to let up or dial back. This is a time when we need your support the most. We need all the tools, all the people, all the resources required to tackle these threats and keep America safe. That's what he's going to say today. Wray will say that the FBI's immediate concern is individuals that will draw inspiration from the ongoing Israeli-Hamas conflict in the Middle East and carry out terror attacks in the U.S. Indeed, someone who was planning one of those very things after saying that he was a supporter of ISIS and wanted to be a martyr in a terror attack was arrested the other day. Did the FISA law that currently stands make that possible? Maybe. I prefer to believe it was good old-fashioned police work. That's what I choose to believe, because this guy was caught because he was talking to a very highly placed FBI informant, pledging his allegiance to ISIS. So he will point to the Russia Concert Hall terror attack that left 144 people dead this afternoon in the worst assault on Russian soil in 2 decades. Quote, our immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home. But now increasing concern is the potential for a coordinated attack here in the homeland, akin to the ISIS-K attack that we saw in the Russian Concert Hall a couple of weeks ago. Well, guess what? He's got a good reason to be worried. Why does he have such a great reason to be worried? Because at the southern border, there have been people on the terrorist watch list that have been caught. How many of them weren't caught? We have an endless stream of military-age single males crashing the border of the United States and just being allowed to enter the homeland. What are they here for? Probably most of them, most of them probably just looking for a job. But if, say, for example, according to the latest statistics that I've been exposed to, since there are some 400,000 just Chinese nationals alone, if 10% of them are here for nefarious purposes, that's an army of 40,000. When we're starting to talk about a coordinated attack, we're talking about attacks in every state of the union. at the same time. Is it possible to happen? Damn right it is. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. I know what you're thinking. I do. I know what you're thinking. So, Wells, on one hand, you're saying that the terror threat in the United States is high, that the people are in place to create terror attacks, serious ones, in every state of the union, all at the same moment. You're saying that that's possible. In fact, you're saying that FBI Director Christopher Wray is going to testify to that fact later this afternoon. Yep. And at the same time, you're saying that we need to allow the FISA law to expire. Yes. What are you trying to do? You're trying to put us in a spot where we're going to get hurt, injured, maybe even die? No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the government of the United States has done exactly that. The government of the United States has done exactly that. The government is out of control. They are doing their dead level best to use federal law against the liberties and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And what they're trying to do is they're doing it for political purposes, all sustained by the media. That's what I'm saying. I'm also saying this, that if the worst thing that happens, what I've just described of coordinated terror attacks in every state of the union at the same time, whether we have the FISA law in place or whether we don't, we're going to see those attacks anyway. So since what I'm thinking about, if the possibility actually exists, and I don't know, but Christopher Wray is going to testify that there's a problem. All I'm doing is I'm bringing practicality to that problem. And that practicality is this. There are indeed fifth column workers in these United States plotting terror attacks as we speak. The FBI director is sure that it's happening and is very concerned about it. He says we need more funding, and he's also implicitly saying that the FISA law has to be renewed. Well, the fact that we have a wide open southern border with criminals of all kinds, all stripes, all nationalities coming across at will, setting the stage for what Christopher Wray fears the most, that's already happened. The horses are out of the corral. And so the FISA law is moot. All it is a way to politically abuse the American people. That's all it is. It didn't start out that way. Started out being a pretty good law that would make it possible for intelligence agencies and federal law enforcement to be able to talk to each other. Well, now we know why that was never the case before 9/11 and why it was a disastrous decision to make it the case after 9/11. Now we know why. But if indeed my worst fears are true, this is a bipartisan political exercise that started with the passage of the Patriot Act and now comes to this very day where we wait for the next set of terror attacks against the United States. We saw a security state, Russia, as the victim of a terror attack that killed almost 150 people. And that was a security state. Make no bones about it. That's a totalitarian state, and it still happened to them. This is a free state with a wide open border. Are we really of the belief that that kind of stuff can't happen here? If that's the case, you're nuts. This has all been put together. It's in place. And now we have Christopher Wray warning us? No. He's not warning us. He's covering his ass. Hey, I said it was going to happen. They didn't allow for the renewal of FISA law, blah, 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 blah. Well, none of that matters, Christopher Wray. And you know it. Or at least you should know it. I've been talking about the political leadership of the United States of America being populated by the wrong people for years. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats. They're not Americans. They're political operatives. All of them. And we put them there. And we stood by and allowed this ridiculous circumstance, specifically at the southern border, to just go without many of us doing anything about it. We kept voting for the same people. kept going, it's not going to be a big deal. These people just want to come here and mow lawns. Death to America chants in Dearborn. A congresswoman openly saying that her reason to be in the Congress is to represent the Palestinian cause. The FISA law abused, and now the same agencies that abused it are begging for its renewal. The prime reasons why it was abused in the first place are not in the reform bill. Because it would make us look bad. My God, it would make us look bad. We can't do that. You can't let that happen. Yeah, you can. Got to have warrants. Can't use social media as a way around the Constitution. That's the way I see it. My name's Wells. That's my opinion. Hour 2 is next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. We make commentary that is cogent to what I believe we see in the news and we see as the basic operating scheme of the federal government. And so do you. You have opinions. I have opinions. We make commentary, both of us. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. That debate process can go two ways. You can call me on the telephone, 817-379-2172. It's wide open. Tell me what you think. As a matter of fact, please tell me what you think. You also join us on the chat room. Last hour was spicy. We got a real problem in these United States. I've been talking about it for years. And indeed, what we have here is we have a situation where it's coming to fruition. Welcome to the Wells Report. Good to have you here. Who's this?
Hey, Mr. Wells. This is Ken Lynch.
Hey, Ken. How are you?
I am doing very good.
Did you hear last hour?
That's why I'm calling.
Oh, my God. I was scaring myself. Did I frighten you?
Not at all.
Tell me what you think. Give me an idea. Do I have black helicopters flying around in my pants right now? Or am I in a situation here where I pretty much have outlined where we stand in these United States with regards to FISA law and the political butt covering that Christopher Wray is going to try to accomplish later this afternoon?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my experience. I'm 30 years military and federal law enforcement. I've participated in FISA warrants. I understand the requirements for search warrants, and I have executed probably 300 or 400 search warrants personally. So, I consider myself to be at least well-versed in the situation.
Okay. I hate to interrupt you, but have you seen abuse of FISA law in your capacities?
I'm not going to say that there is not. I can't say that I'm a direct witness. Any law that's made by politicians is going to be abused. The original intent is great, but then there's loopholes put in there for abuse. So yes, I agree that the FISA law has been abused. But let me give you the original intent so we have a little bit of context. Current traditional constitutional law requires evidence of a crime committed before a judge will sign a search warrant. So whether it's a physical search warrant of a house or a vehicle, whether it's digital search warrant of phones and computers, whether it's electronic surveillance search warrant, whatever. There needs to be evidence of a crime. And a judge is not going to sign that unless the law enforcement official says, okay, here's the evidence. We need a search warrant. In the case of terrorism.
Okay, but wait a minute.
There is no crime committed.
Okay. Let me get back to that. But FISA law was lied about by the FBI to the FISA court in order to continue warrants that, in a de facto way, allowed spying on the Trump campaign.
I'm not talking about the abuses. I'm trying to set the context of why FISA was developed.
Okay,
And
okay.
so that
I'm
you
sorry.
can understand that traditional constitutional law requires evidence of a crime to get a search warrant. Whereas when you're dealing with terrorism and trying to prevent terrorism, you want to actually prevent the crime. So there's no crime that you can go to a judge and say, hey, this crime has been committed. You can't go to a judge and say, well, there might be a crime committed, because that's not how traditional constitutional law works. So FISA was put into place to allow freedoms to monitor suspected terrorists, so that prevention, could be the goal to stop terrorist attacks. And the initial intent was great. Yes, we need to monitor potential terrorist attacks and prevent those type of things from happening. But yes, it has been abused, and yes, the definition of terrorist has been degraded and across the entire law enforcement community to basically include anyone. And whoever they want to define as a terrorist, they put that label on them, and it has been abused. But what I'm saying is the initial intent was good, and it was needed because terrorism is not a traditional crime.
So what we're dealing with are, as typical with most political circumstances, unintended consequences.
Oh, absolutely. There's loopholes in the law, and they've been exploited by corrupt politicians and political reasons. I mean, it's just like the red flag law on gun ownership. The initial intent of the red flag laws was to keep documented mentally ill people from obtaining guns. That's a good intention, but the loopholes in the law allowed for anyone to be labeled with a red flag, and now they can red flag anybody they want with whatever ill intentions they have. So yes, the loopholes in the original FISA law need to be plugged up, need to be fixed, and there needs to be legitimate reasons why that they would label someone a terrorist and monitor them, and it can't be for political reasons.
Okay, so the people that are trying to reform the FISA law, and a lot of these things are very, very good. A lot of these reforms are very, very good, but there are two missing. One, that there is no warrant requirement for Americans to be interrogated through the FISA database. And two, it's possible to create a warrant based on news reports and purchase data from third-party/social media companies. Those two things are not in this revision. Well, why aren't they in this revision? Why aren't they? Why is it that Republicans are saying, hey, we need to fix this part of that law, these two parts of that law? Why are they being vilified as trying to stand in the way of national security?
Well, you've got two totally separate issues there. The first one, social media, is exactly that. It's public domain information, so there's no search warrant needed. There's no purchasing necessary, really, unless you just want to streamline your acquisition process. I mean, anybody can go out to social media and see what you post. It's public domain information. There's no warrant required. When we download somebody's Facebook page, there's no warrant required because it's public domain information, and people have put it out there. That's their choice, and that's that they suffer the consequences for putting out there in public. But you do have to have a search warrant underneath FISA if you want to get people's personal information, their emails, monitor their phone calls, that type of thing. You do need a search warrant underneath FISA. The problem, like I said, was that the labeling of someone underneath FISA as being a possible threat to national security is so vague that they can apply it to anyone.
As we've seen, federal law enforcement has basically used the FISA law to create it's not national security that they're trying to stop. It's national politics that they're trying to keep people from interfering with. That's what we've seen.
Absolutely. They've labeled people in certain political parties or groups, or even in the PTA, as potential threats to national security, because, like I said, there's no definition in the FISA law of what a threat is. And, if they narrow it down to specifically, terrorism from, nation states or whatever, then maybe they can improve it. I'm not saying they're going to fix it perfectly, but they can improve it. But right now, there's no definition in there specifically that is narrow enough that prevents them from labeling anyone a terrorist. They could label me a terrorist or label you a terrorist just, because of something you said on social media. So,
well, while I have this opportunity, since you are involved in federal law enforcement. Let me ask you this. Christopher Wray later this afternoon is going to come out again and say, hey, there's a real problem here. He's trying to get some funding. I understand that. But he's also saying now's not the time to let up. We need more funding. And implicitly, he's saying we need this FISA law passed. Well, I put forward that we're already in enough trouble that passing the FISA law or reauthorizing the FISA law is moot, because all the people that are necessary for 50 state terror attacks all on the same day are already in place. Am I just being paranoid? Is this the black helicopter thing flying around in my pants right now that I'm maybe taking this too far?
I would agree with every news story that I've read that says there are nation state actors in this country right now making plans. But like I said, under traditional constitutional law, how do you monitor any of those people if there's not been a crime committed? That's why FISA needs to be in place. Now, can we reform it in a short matter of time? Congress has demonstrated they can't do anything in a short matter of time. So are the reforms going to be put in place? Is it going to be fixed? No, probably not. Is it going to be renewed eventually? Yes, probably, because they know they need it to monitor these terrorists, because traditional law does not allow monitoring until there's been a crime committed. So, under that, they need it. But, the people who want to abuse it are going to fight to keep the amendments out. They're going to say, oh, we have to have it right now because there's potential terrorists in the country. And yes, they are keeping it in place for their reasons they've been using it for in the past, which are political.
Okay, so when you say, one more thing. Okay, so you say that anything on Facebook, YouTube, X, anything is public domain.
Yeah.
That's true. But could a protection exist whereby the people posting that information those people are the actual owners of that intellectual property? And in order to pierce that intellectual property to develop evidence for, say, for example, a federal charge or an indictment of some kind, could that require a warrant? In other words, if there was a law in place protecting the American people's intellectual property, would it be so far afield to have to require a warrant to be able to use that as evidence in federal court? Shouldn't be a tough call, but it seems to me that that's missing.
Like I said, anything posted in social media, and if you go through all of the user agreements that you sign when you open your account, you basically sign away all your rights when you open that account. And you say, here, this is my information I am posting. Anybody can read it. Anybody can use it for whatever means they want to use it for. And yes, it can be used in a criminal proceedings. Granted, most of it is considered hearsay. It's not considered factual because anybody can lie on the internet. But it can be used. But, the point is, once you create your account and start putting stuff out there, you allow your information to be used in any way possible. And if you want to put, your own copyrighted information out there, then you would have to put some sort of disclaimer. And like I said, most user agreements from social media sites, invalidate any type of claims to any information you put out there. It's public domain, and that's what you agree to when you sign up.
Okay. Ken, thanks very much for your call this morning. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Take good care. I love it when the pros call. It means a lot to me. It does. So let's see. Going along to get along can also be thought of as political malfeasance, says Eddie. This is going back to the chat room. Let's see. I guess I'm watching my language today, says Eddie. Yeah. While American people are suffering, our leadership and the sheep pounds them harder. Okay. Let's see. Leadership that is lost. Buddy says, when you look at the population of the district, they're talking about Dearborn, Michigan, represented by Palestinian Rashida Tlaib, who has a Palestinian flag in her office. She was elected there in the first place. Same thing for Omar. And they don't apparently care one way or another whether somebody is shouting death to America here on American soil. There's more. We'll continue with our chat room discussion coming up in just a couple of seconds. So we're in a tight spot. We have real problems here. And are they going to come to fruition before the election, during the election, shortly after the election? What are we facing? How did we get here? We know. The government put us here. How are we going to be able to fix it? I don't know. The same government that put us here is now being expected to fix it. I don't think they can. So what do? I've got some thoughts on that. I'll share them with you next. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service, running through some of the things being said on the chat room. Let's see. I need blood pressure medicine when watching or listening to government workers defend malfeasance. You know, a lot of people ask me, hey, John, are you going to blow a gasket? I mean, seriously, man, your blood pressure, what are you doing? You know what? My blood pressure is actually just a little low. Why is that? I'll tell you why. My blood pressure is low because I have a clear conscience. I have a clear conscience. Every single day, without being paid for it, at least much, although you can fix that by going to patreon.com/The Wells Report and give me a couple of bucks a month. That's all I'm asking. Anyway, I have a clear conscience. I don't do this for money. I do this because I'm an American citizen. And I want my fellow American citizens to be properly informed. I want them to have an actual opportunity to interact with the news. The Wells Report, depropagandizes the news, but what it also does is gives you access to it. 817-379-2172. Interact. Because this is our place. This is our opportunity to have our voices heard. And so my blood pressure doesn't go anywhere because I've got a clear conscience. There's also something else I have. Courage. I'm not slapping myself on the back here. This is not self-aggrandizement. I'm going to tell the truth. Whether the FBI knocks on my door or not, I'm still going to tell the truth. As I see it, as I believe it to be. My ethics inside here are clean and clear. The objective of this broadcast is truth, so that you can make real decisions. I have courage, and I'm heartened by it. I also have courage to face these malfeasance actors, these malactors that are here in this nation for what could be nefarious purposes. I've been warning about this for years. And all the pieces are apparently in place, aren't they? We've sat here and watched this government malfunction at a level that is un-American, anti-constitutional, anti-freedom, anti-liberty, and just plain incompetent. All these people now running, saying, my God, I've got to tell you that there's chatter, there's a real problem. We got a real problem here in the United States. Christopher Wray, I'm Christopher Wray, and things are bad. Why, Christopher? I'll tell you why. Because your agency, just like the DOJ, spent way too much time playing politics instead of protecting the homeland. That's why. This isn't personal. This is professional. Chris, you and your organization looks an awful lot like professional scum. But don't worry, you got a lot of company. You got a lot of company. You got the DOJ, professional scum. You've got the Department of Homeland Security, professional scum. You have the intelligence services, which I've always revered, turning themselves into political scum and professional scum because they're spying on Americans for political purposes. And you don't need to do any of it. You don't. You need to get back to equal protection under the law. You need to enforce federal law, not abuse it. You need to believe that American citizens are good instead of believing that American citizens are a threat to your government. And I say your government, sir, because it's sure as hell isn't ours. Because if it was ours, we wouldn't be in debt and we wouldn't be in danger. That's the way I see it. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a minute.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. There's breaking news at this hour. O.J. Simpson, who ran to fame on the football field, made fortunes as a black All-American in movies, advertising, and television, and was acquitted of killing his former wife and her friend in a 1995 trial in Los Angeles that mesmerized the nation, has died. He was 76. The family announced his cause of death was cancer. The announcement did not say where he died. A jury in the murder trial, which held up a cracked mirror to black and white America, cleared Mr. Simpson, but the case ruined his world. In 1997, a civil suit brought by the victims' families found him liable for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald L. Goldman, and ordered him to pay $33.5 million in damages. He paid little of that debt. He moved to Florida, struggled to remake his life, raise his children, and stay out of trouble. In 2006, he sold a book manuscript, If I Did It, and a prospective TV interview giving a hypothetical account of murders he had always denied committing. A public outcry ended both projects, but Mr. Goldman's family secured the book rights, added material imputing guilt to Mr. Simpson, and had it published. O.J. Simpson, dead at age 76 of cancer. And what a chapter and what a life. At some point, we look at our sports heroes and end something like this, an obituary, by saying a life well lived. I don't believe so. O.J. Simpson is gone. I have reported several times on this broadcast that it is pretty obvious, based on news accounts, that the American left has decided that President Trump is going to be President Trump again. And they are taking steps to prepare for it. Apparently, European politicians and diplomats feel the same way. CNN reports it this way. European diplomats in Washington are frantically working to set up meetings with allies of former President Donald Trump as they prepare for his potential return to the White House, according to sources familiar with the effort, talking to CNN. At face-to-face sit-downs in private D.C. clubs, hotels, embassies, and think tanks around town, diplomats are asking questions about Trump's policy intentions and his possible personnel choices, sending notes back to their European capitals where officials are hungry for any insights as they try to set up guardrails for NATO and to ensure lasting support for Ukraine and its war with Russia. As ambassadors and diplomatic staffers jostle to make contact with those who might know what Trump is planning, informal lists of some former high-ranking Trump officials are floating around embassies, including former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, Keith Kellogg, former Vice President Mike Pence's top national security advisor. The meetings aren't always pleasant and at times have become emotional. But in most interactions, the diplomats simply listen diligently, according to two sources who have been present for some of them. But those meetings are coveted, in many cases easier for diplomats to set up than for others. Ambassadors from larger countries and those who have been in Washington for several years are having an easier time tapping into the Trump circle compared to ambassadors who are new to D.C. and those from smaller countries, according to multiple diplomats. The activity ahead of the November presidential election starkly contrasts the lead up to the 2016 election, when most diplomats assumed Hillary Clinton would win and made little effort to plug in with Trump allies or any Republican foreign policy circles. They've learned a key lesson. Quote, "We are not that nervous because we know that Trump is all about relationships," said one veteran European diplomat who has been in D.C. since the Trump administration. "We are working on them. We are telling the Capitol that the Prime Minister's office needs to establish a personal connection with Trump right out of the gates." It's unclear how much true influence some of these contacts will have with President Trump and his campaign. Sources tell CNN that in some cases, diplomats are casting a wide net, courting Republican think tanks and seeking meetings with former President Trump cabinet members to gain any semblance of insight. A senior advisor to Trump said no meetings were being held at the direction of the campaign. Back in Europe, officials from NATO and the European Union are working to harden support for Ukraine in anticipation of a potential Trump administration that almost certainly would be less supportive of the war-torn country. Sources say these efforts have long been eyed, but Trump's rise in the polls and handy victory in the Republican primaries have given them new urgency. Chief among them is establishing a roughly $100 billion NATO fund over the next 5 years aimed at funneling money into Ukraine. Those funds would be drawn specifically from the alliance members as a way to lock in a base of support ahead of a potential Trump second term. It's future-proofing said one senior European diplomat familiar with the discussions, explaining that changes are being considered that would make it more challenging for individual NATO members to alter and disrupt ongoing support for Ukraine as swiftly, especially as they anticipate Trump possibly coming into the White House. In Brussels, European Union officials are busily examining how to make use of the $300 billion in Russian central bank assets that have been frozen in the West since Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. Specifically, they're looking at how to direct interest that has accumulated in the holdings directly toward Ukraine. The move would require the European Union coming to an agreement on how Ukraine could use the funds, whether for military expenditures or reconstruction. The EU passed a law earlier this year to set aside windfall profits from the Russian central bank funds, which the U.S. endorsed. In another sign of NATO countries' growing desire to tap into the Trump orbit, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron met with Trump at the former president's Mar-a-Lago club Monday night. Cameron's trip to South Florida came as the foreign prime minister is set to travel to Washington to meet with Secretary of State Antony Blinken this week. A spokesperson for the British government said it's standard practice for engagement between ministers and opposition candidates of partner nations. The meeting was set up when the UK government reached out to the Trump campaign, suggesting it, of course, according to sources familiar. The pair discussed NATO defense spending, upcoming U.S. and UK elections, Brexit, and ending the killing in Ukraine during the dinner together. This according to a readout from the Trump campaign. Cameron refused to get into the details of the meeting, but told reporters he is passionately making the case to anyone that he talks to, backing Ukraine as an investment in U.S. security and good for American jobs. I have to stop right there. We don't know where any of that money is going. We have no idea. There's no accountability for the money that's going to Ukraine, whether it's United States money or whether it's European Union money. We have no idea. We have absolutely no clue as to how Ukraine is using that funding. They are engaged in a war with Russia that is, by any standard, a limited war being practiced by Russia in an effort to at once secure necessary strategic property that belongs to Ukraine, and two, to not create such a mess in Ukraine that Ukrainians become mortal enemies of Russia. It's another mess. And nobody is actually forcing those two people, those two countries, to get together and figure out a way around this. Donald Trump says he'll clear it up in 24 hours. I believe him. Because I think he knows what is important to both nations. He knows the reality of the fact that Russia has got to have access to their naval bases in the Crimean Peninsula. That's the sticking point. That's why Russia went to war. There has to be something that Russia has that Ukraine needs and wants. You have to put those two things on the table, and then you have to figure out how to make it happen. I don't think there's anybody better in the world at making a deal like that than Donald Trump. Not because I'm a supporter of Donald Trump, but because that guy's a deal maker. That's all there is. That's what he does. And I don't think that the State Department, run by Antony Blinken or anybody else in the Biden administration, has a flippin' clue as to how to make that happen. Because if indeed that could happen during the Biden administration, it would have. The European Union. They're not forcing Russia and Ukraine to talk things over. Why? Why? Well, that gets back to the funding. Everybody in NATO knows that when Trump becomes the president again, if he does, they're going to have to start paying their bills. This is a European issue, not an American one. Regardless of my respect for David Cameron, I'm going to make this plain. This is not about U.S. national security. This is about European Union security. And they should pay the freight. The people of the United States spent trillions of dollars during the Cold War keeping Europe safe. A gesture that was returned by, once the Cold War was over, the European Union making deals with Russia for all kinds of things that should have come from America, including fuel to keep the houses warm in the winter and cool in the summer. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. So as long as it is an advantage for the European Union, yeah, we'll deal with Russia, even though they tried to essentially take over Western Europe for 40 years. Oh, yeah, we'll do business with them. The Americans, they're so silly. Yeah, okay. Well, believing that Americans are silly comes with a price tag. I don't know why the United States is buried in Ukraine. The only thing that I can tell you is that every time Antony Blinken gets in front of a microphone, well, okay, every time except once. Every time Antony Blinken gets in front of a microphone, he brings us closer to World War III with Russia. What is he doing? Well, Ukraine ought to be in NATO. That's a red line, dude. What, you don't read the news? Well, fortunately, I do. Maybe I do read more news than Antony Blinken. All I can say is that, you know, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where the money's going. I don't know what's going to happen after this is all over. Is Zelensky going to say, I did my bit, I'm moving to Florida? I don't know. But I do know that this is about European Union security, not American national security. That's what I think. Donald Trump found himself as the leader of a party that was getting lambasted politically for that party's ideology surrounding abortion. And what he just did was masterfully take the issue off the table. This particular issue is the one that was gaining the most traction in the United States, at least according to Democrat sources. But what he did was he took it off the table, which was pretty impressive. And this is how he did it.
Did Arizona go too far? Did Arizona go too far? Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly. What do you think about Florida? Florida's probably maybe going to change also. See, it's all about it's the will of the people. This is what I've been saying. It's a perfect system. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida's probably going to change. Arizona's going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people. It's been pretty amazing.
So the idea of a limit on abortion after 15 weeks is not a bill that Donald Trump would sign, because he realized that this is a states' rights issue. That was the reason for the Dobbs decision. Overturning Roe v. Wade was to put it back into the purvey of the states. And now the left says, my God, that's created chaos. My God, the states thinking for themselves? We can't have that. We must have a federal republic, not a United States of America. Uh-huh. Yeah, you see, if you pay attention long enough, you actually start finding the truth, don't you? You do. At least I like to think that I do. I could be wrong. If I am, by all means, tell me how. 817-379-2172. Look, I'm not an oracle. I'm just telling you what I think. I need you to tell me what you think. I'm not some all-knowing seer of all truth. Not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just your neighbor. I'm your fellow American citizen. Trying to make sure that you've got truth and trying to make sure that you've got a perspective at least to consider. I'd love to consider yours. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. These United States, far too beautiful a thing to lose over the foolishness of politics. It's absolute foolishness. Hey, look, if you find value in this broadcast, do me a favor, support it, will you? Make sure that you subscribe to the show. Make sure that you pass this show along to your friends. Ask them to subscribe. Hit the notification buttons. And if you would like to support the show financially, go to patreon.com, patreon.com/The Wells Report. Give us a couple of bucks every month or so. We'd appreciate it. Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. My name is Fred Ridley, and on behalf of the membership of Augusta National Golf Club, I'd like to welcome you to the 88th playing of the Masters. Thank you for being with us. Today, I have the honor of introducing three legendary champions. Together, they have won a combined 11 green jackets and made an incredible 140 appearances in the Masters across 6 decades. This morning, we add another milestone to their celebrated history at Augusta National. First on the tee, it is my great pleasure to welcome back golf's preeminent global ambassador, the Masters' first international champion with 3 green jackets. From South Africa, please welcome Mr. Gary Player.
The ceremony that begins the Masters every year with amazing golf pros with an amazing Masters past. teeing off in a ceremony
That's
that
easy to put the ball on the tee anymore, isn't it?
All right, so here we go. This is a sweet swing that has made this man an awful lot of fame, glory, and cash. Wow. Pretty good drive. Pretty good drive.
Thank you, Gary. Next, 61 years after his first green jacket, we proudly welcome back our 6-time Masters champion and one of golf's great icons, whose historic record at the Masters has provided some of the tournament's most unforgettable moments. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jack Nicklaus.
Jack's having a little trouble getting around these days, but looks hale and hearty. Yeah, this is the hard part.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Been there, done that. Yes. The tee up is complete. Well done, Jack.
Jack, the tee is yours.
Thank you, sir. Oh, watch out on the left and right.
They normally don't show the shots that are being taken for obvious reasons, but they're doing it this year. Good job. Nice drive. Nice drive. Next will be Tom Watson. Wahoo. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Jack. Now on the tee, we welcome back a 2-time Masters champion and 8-time major champion, known around the world not only for his outstanding play, but for his longevity and legacy in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tom Watson.
Tom Watson in better shape than his predecessors, at least physically.
There's one thing. Jack, you never hit a hook off this tee in your life.
That was a neck pull.
Tom, please play away.
Thank you.
Still playing, by the way, still playing professionally. Tom Watson is still a force in seniors golf, not just in America, but around the world. A swing so good it became the logo of the PGA. Bingo. And with that, the greatest golf tournament in human history, I believe, has gotten underway. Some of the things that are going around, the first round is, it's been delayed. It was delayed until 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So it started a little more than an hour and 20 minutes ago. The original time was 8 a.m. with Erik van Rooyen and Jake Knapp being the first pairing. So let's see, pars all around. Jose Maria Olazabal, Taylor Moore, and amateur Santiago de la Fuente joined Erik van Rooyen and Jake Knapp with pars on the first hole. Next group rolling, Danny Willett, Austin Eckroat, Stephen Yeager, followed by Carl Schwartzel, Luke List, and amateur Christo Lamprecht. Let's see, the 2006, the first birdie of the 2006, 2024 Masters, rather, comes from 2006's 2016's Masters champion, and that was Danny Willett. The 2016 Masters champion knocked in a birdie in the opening hole of his round to take the early lead. Willett missed the cut in last year's Masters. Jake Knapp and Erik van Rooyen, Taylor Moore also added birdies on their scorecards. Let's see, for the 24th time, or excuse me, 26th time, Tiger Woods will be teeing off. And many people are hoping that Tiger Woods will be able to physically endure the entire 72-hole tournament. He's about to tee off. Let's see who else. John Rahm will hit the tee at 1 p.m. Scotty Scheffler, Bubba Watson, Phil Mickelson, Tony Finau, Rory McIlroy are among those competing, and they will take to the Augusta National Golf Course for round number 1 of the Masters. And yep, I'll be watching. A program note, I will not be on this broadcast tomorrow. I've got to take tomorrow off. I've got something really important that is happening, and if it works out, you'll know all about it. All right? This has been the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification button. Give us those thumbs ups. And if you'd like to support us financially, go to patreon.com/The Wells Report. See you again on Monday. All righty then. There we go. Oh, man. I hope I didn't just make a mistake. Oh, well. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we can. All righty then. God bless all y'all. Take good care, and I will see you again tomorrow. Or no, I'm sorry, on Monday for another edition of the Wells Report.